Hello everyone, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian. I will be your IELTS teacher for today's live class. I see there are already a few people joining in, so just wanted to do a quick video and audio check to make sure it's going well and you can hear me and you can see the board behind me. Can anybody give me a yes, I can hear you? Hi Indira, hi Khadija, hi Hadil, hi Shiji, Reno, good to see you in class. Hi Amid, you can hear me okay, that's great. Awesome, today we're doing some speaking practice from our Book 1, Test 2. This is coming from our websites for world-class IELTS preparation help. Go to aehelp.com for academic IELTS or gltshelp.com for general IELTS. Join our full course. Use that code LIVE LIVE20 for a 20% discount. And of course, you can use Super Chat if you want to make a donation, support our work, or ask an important question. For booking a practice or mock IELTS speaking interview, please send me an email to adrian@aehelp.com or admin@aehelp.com to book a practice session with me or another English professional. The website also has editing and writing help. All right, great number of students coming in today. The websites where the materials are coming from are up here. You can also see the questions for the speaking in the stream description. So if you don't have our books, then look for the stream description, okay? So speaking questions in YouTube stream description. All right. Okay, everyone, so let's get right into our class for today. I know some people are actually writing their, doing their speaking tests, I should say, today. That's great. I hope those people are doing a good job or did a good job. All right, here we go. Quickly show you our website. So this is where our materials are coming from. We have audio material for our speaking as well, so I will use one of the websites today to give you some sample audio. And of course, it's really important that you repeat what I say. So when I'm giving answers for these questions, please repeat after me nice and loud, okay? If you hear new words during the lesson, write them down. Have a pencil and a paper beside you so you can learn those words at a later time. All right, so this is our speaking here. Now, just before we get into the speaking, as you know, speaking has 3 parts. First part will be some general questions. Second part is a cue card that you have 1 minute to prepare for and then 2 minutes to talk. And then, of course, you have part 3, which are some follow-up questions, usually on the topic of part 2 or something related, and they're more specific, more complex questions, but the answers are still fairly straightforward. So keep your thoughts simple. Let me just increase that to full screen. There we go. All right, so let's just jump back here for a couple of notes about the speaking section. This is just some quick review here. So when you get to your speaking interview, you enter the room. There will be an interviewer waiting for you. Make sure you have your passport or your national identification card. They will ask you for that. They will keep it on the table while you're doing your interview. What are some important points? So what's some important steps to do as you go into the interview room or even before? So what is something important that you should be doing even before you go into your speaking interview? Ildar, that's awesome. I'm always happy. It's almost like every single live class now there's a student reporting that they've gotten a score good enough for their immigration or their school, and that makes me really happy, girls and guys. So I'm super happy to see these success stories. Congratulations, Ildar. I'm so happy that you got the score that you needed on your IELTS. That's awesome. Okay, Saeed says breathe. Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, Saeed, one way to rephrase what you just wrote, breathe, is stay calm, right? Don't forget to breathe. One of the biggest challenges for students in the speaking is they get really nervous. You have to stay confident. Okay, Ricky, it's great timing on your behalf to get into this lesson today. Make sure you pay attention. Yeah, Shiji says also relax the day prior to the exam. Try not to stress out. Stress is definitely one of your biggest enemies on the IELTS and in life when you have challenging situations. So stay calm. Definitely, that's a big one. So, as redundant and as common sense as it may seem, you have to stay calm, okay? Just remember, the sun will shine tomorrow. You are one of many students. Many students. So if you make some mistakes, if your speaking isn't the best, you're probably not the worst, you're probably not the best. The IELTS examiner will not remember you specifically as an individual, so don't worry about it, okay? Definitely remember to breathe. Okay? Sure, that's one of the things. What's another thing? What's something else that you should do before you walk into your speaking interview? So I've said this a few times in some of the previous speaking lessons and classes, and if you haven't seen those, just subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can watch a lot of videos and sample or mock interviews to know what kind of speaking you should be doing. Hike says, speak English the day before. Absolutely. Speak English only the day before your interview, and especially 1 hour before your interview. What I mean there is go to the interview early and find a speaking buddy to practice with. Okay? That can actually save you half a band, if not a full band. Farouk says, speak as if you're speaking with your grandpa. Remember that. Yeah, that's great. I'm really happy that you guys and girls are remembering what I'm teaching you, because that is the key to your success, or at least several of the keys to your success. So speak to the interviewer as if he is your grandpa or she is your grandma. That's right. Why do I say that? So why should you treat your interviewer that way? Well, first of all, of course, as you probably can guess, it will make you more comfortable. And why else? Why else? Deep, you haven't seen this before because this is live, but we're doing a little bit of review here. So Hadil says it's because you will be clear, loud, formal, and give detailed answers, as Shiji is adding there. Yeah, absolutely. So those are some important points. Now, I want to get into our speaking here, so I'm wanting to move through here quickly. So it's nice that you're giving me some answers, okay? To get high scores in speaking, you must remember to what? What should you remember to do while you speak? Anybody? This is coming again from some previous lessons. Yeah, saying things like fluency and coherence is okay, but that doesn't actually mean much to students because they're kind of abstract thoughts. Hike is giving us a little bit something more specific in Hadil. Don't go off topic. Give examples. Keep an open body posture. Absolutely. Those are all really important points. To get high scores, you have to remember to give lots of examples. I want to practice that today because I'm still finding that students are just not giving the right kinds of examples. So give lots of examples. Stay on topic, which means use the question. And that means also paraphrase key words when possible. Right? Okay, and then somebody said stay coherent and fluent. How can I increase my fluency? What can I actually do that's going to help me to stay fluent? Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate that. All right, so what can I do? Amar says use natural fillers. Yeah, and that's contrary to what a lot of students think. They think that using natural fillers is not a good idea, but it is, and it's okay to hesitate slightly with natural fillers. Speak slowly and clearly instead of speaking fast and jumbled and off topic. You're right, Mohammed. Absolutely. How can I stay fluent? I can stay fluent by using conjunctions, right? And that will also help me not just to stay fluent, but stay coherent. Right? By using conjunctions. Conjunctions, of course, means subordinating, coordinating, and the one that students miss most often, the correlative. Okay? So you need to do that. Those are definitely some of the key steps, and Kira's on top of it. Okay, so let's make sure that we're practicing that today. All right, so make sure I am mad, love. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but funny enough, being a little bit angry is still a bit better than being nervous. So if it helps you to be, it's a funny one that I've never mentioned before, if it helps you to be a little bit agitated and angry about life to get into the IELTS, it's still better. By the way, I've also seen where students are really happy or giggly or bubbly, their personality is they're always smiling and laughing, especially if they're a little bit nervous. And then, of course, the examiner sometimes has a very straight face. You should know that the examiner is told to keep as straight of a face as possible. They're not supposed to get very friendly or happy or very strict with you. So they are instructed to be as neutral as possible. Don't let that affect the way that you're speaking and the way that you are reacting to the questions, okay? So careful about that. Yeah, Burak, if you talk too much and you go off topic, it's really easy to lose a lot of points. So you got to be careful about that for sure. All right, so you walk into the IELTS interview, and then the IELTS interviewer says, welcome to the speaking section of the IELTS exam. My name is Adrian. I'll be the interviewer for this part of the test. May I see your identification, please? What's a good way to respond to that? Anybody? What's a nice natural English way, just starting with a couple of simple points here to respond to, not yes please, Farouk. Please is weird. Please is like you're asking for something. You're not asking me for something. I'm asking you for something. So instead of yes please, you should say yes, here you are, or yes of course, here you are, or Kira says, sure, here it is. Yeah, absolutely. Sure, here you are. So right away, you want to show that you have a natural ability for language and you've looked at how native speakers use the language naturally. Okay, and then the first question they'll ask is, okay, can I have your name, please? What's a nice way to answer that question? Yeah, Deep, it's a good idea to not dress up, so you don't want to get into business clothes, but semi-formal, absolutely. Some jeans and a dress shirt, something comfortable, right? You don't want to be distracted with uncomfortable clothing if that's possible, absolutely. There we go. Navneet says, yes, my name is, and then give your full name. Yes, my name is Abdul Wahab. I'm using your name there, Abdul. Okay. Can I add something to that to jump the next question of the examiner? Because the examiner almost always will follow this up with another question. Anybody know what that question is? So what's the question that the examiner will ask right after, can I have your full name, please? It's very common practice for the interviewer to ask you this question. That's right, Aisha, yeah. So usually the examiner will say, and what can I call you? Okay, so just jump that question right away. And if you want to be called Abdul, then just say, please just call me Abdul. Yes, my full name is Abdul Wahab, but please just call me Abdul. Sure. So that's a nice full sentence right away to show your fluency and also to remind you that you're fluent. And then they're going to ask you a couple of questions. They'll say, all right, I'd like to get to know you a bit better. And then they'll follow that with something like, do you currently live in a house or an apartment? Okay, there's a variety of questions they might ask you there. That's kind of already getting into part one without naming it. They're trying to get you to be a little bit more comfortable, so they'll ask you a question like that because our part one is about school. They probably are not going to ask you too much about school right away. So they'll ask you something different, very general, like, all right, I'd like to get to know you a bit better. Do you currently live in a house or an apartment? What would be a good answer for that question? So if the examiner asks you, all right, I'd like to get to know you a little bit better. Do you currently live in a house or in an apartment? All right. Navneet, if you're asking me where I'm from West Coast, Canada, beautiful British Columbia, capital city, Victoria. Make sure you're repeating after me, okay? When I say these questions and answers, just try to repeat me nice and loud. And girls and guys, if you have a phone with you right now that you're using, you might also want to activate your recorder function and record your side of this live lesson so you can listen to it later and keep practicing, okay? Renan says, I live in an apartment with my brothers. Yeah, and give a time expression there. Currently, I am living in an apartment with my brothers. Now, sometimes students ask me, should I be using British English or American English? Here, apartment is more American English. If you want to use British English, you would say, currently, I'm living in a flat with my brothers. Apartment is an apartment. Flat is a flat because flat is with an F, which is a consonant, and apartment is with a vowel. It's with an A. Okay, and definitely it's good to use contractions in your speaking, meaning that you draw these kinds of words together. Instead of I am, you do I'm, okay? And currently has a little break after it generally. All right, so let's see. Gary Broad says, recently I live in my hometown with my family, or in a house in my hometown with my family. Good, that's okay too. All right, and then they might ask you something like this. What do you like about living in an apartment? Okay. So can somebody give me a good answer for that one? What do you like about living in an apartment? That's also good. I'm currently living in a house with my parents. And if you want to give location, that's great too. So add a little bit more, but not too much. With my parents in downtown Seoul or in downtown Rio de Janeiro. Okay? Rohit says, well, it is easy to maintain. Okay, again, remember, use the question. Well, one aspect I like about living in an apartment is it is easy to maintain, or it's easy to maintain. Sure. Okay. It's pretty quiet and spacious because there's no noise around me. It is very convenient. That would be a good answer as well. Also, it is quite convenient. Since. Keep going with that one. So let's make a conjunction here. Let's use a cause and effect. Since can be used for cause and effect. Can somebody add to this part of my answer? So also, it is quite convenient since, and then can you please add a little bit to the end of my sentence to finish that, to make it a complex sentence and make it better communication. Why is it convenient? Why is living in an apartment convenient? Spacious would not be a good answer. I'm not sure if that's what you meant. Easy to maintain, we've already said. So we said because it's easy to maintain. It's convenient since why? Harmeet, that's kind of an awkward answer since I'm a student. Sometimes we get discounts rather than pricey hotels. I'm not sure where you're going with it. Since it's easy to keep clean. Sure, that would be something for maintain as well. You've already said that. Sure. Teenager Ada has a nice answer that's relevant. Since my IELTS exam is close by. And then give a little bit more detail. I was able to get here in less than 10 minutes. Sure. All right. So you get the idea, okay? Again, repeat after me. Well, one aspect I like about living in an apartment is it's easy to maintain. Also, it's quite convenient since my IELTS exam is close by. I was able to get here in less than 10 minutes. Okay. All right. So, again, one point that I really want to focus on today, I find students are still lacking in this, is the examples, the quantifiable, visible language that makes communication great. So I want you to focus on that. Okay, and then the examiner will say, all right, now we will begin part one. For part one, I'm going to ask you some questions on a general topic. Let's talk about school. And I know some of you might have seen this set of questions not too long ago, but we're going through each of our exams step by step over the next 8 weeks. So right now we're in test 2 speaking. Again, if you want to follow these live sessions even more effectively, then do get our materials from aehelp.com and gieltshelp.com when you sign up for that full course. All right, so the examiner says, let's talk about school. And then you say, sure, let's do that. And then the examiner will say, where do you go to school? What is a good answer to that question? Where do you go to school? Reno says, I went for my schooling at Rajagiri Public School. I studied there for 14 years. That's a good answer, Reno. So not too much detail. You're not going off topic, but just enough that you're keeping a nice score there. You want to just be careful a little bit with the grammar. Currently, I'm studying in university for the last 2 years. Not since 2 years, for the last 2 years, Khadija. Sounds better. I attended school in the same city where I was born, in Pavlodar. Indira, I highly recommend giving a little bit more there. Say the school's name was, and then also in the beginning I might say something like, currently I do not go to school. Notice that it's present tense. So if your answer is you went to school but you don't go to school now, you need to say that. So you need to acknowledge that the question is in present tense and you don't go to school anymore. So you would have to say something like, currently, I am not a student, but I went to school in my hometown of Victoria for 16 years. I did 12 years of public education, and then attended the University of Victoria for another 4 years. Okay? So give some nice details there. I went for my school in my hometown in Amritsar is a little bit awkward, Shinu. I went to school in my hometown. I went for my school is a bit of awkward phrasing in English. I went to a city school in the town where I was living. It was called something, Rekha. Okay. Mohammed says, recently I completed my schooling in Hyderabad, India. I studied 12 years in Sacred Heart High School, which is a reputed educational institution in the country. Sure, that's a good way, Mohammed, as well, to answer the question. Okay, so here, just repeat after me. Currently, I'm not a student, but I went to school in my hometown of Victoria for 16 years. I did 12 years of public education and then attended the University of Victoria for another 4 years. Again, girls and guys, make sure you're repeating after me when I say these. You don't need to say your major, Aaron, because I didn't ask you about that. That could be my next question. So don't just keep talking about everything. Show the examiner that you understand that the question is specifically asking you for where you went to school. It's not asking for what was your major, what did you like about school, who were your friends there. Those could be the next questions coming. So you don't want to get over expressive. Okay, that's not a good idea. That was a good question, Aaron. Don't get over expressive. Don't start talking about your major. Focus on where you went to school. At most, include when you went to school, especially if it's not current. Okay. So here is another question. What other schools have you attended? Pay attention to the grammar. If you're a teacher, that's fine. Khaled, you probably still went to school. You can say, currently I'm a teacher, but when I was a student, I went to school in. Okay, so Khaled, still answer the question. Don't change the answer. Don't say, I'm a teacher now, I don't go to school. That's not enough, all right? So yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, Hadil. That's present perfect. Be very careful. When you hear the present perfect, your answer also has to be present perfect, okay? So make sure that you include present perfect in your answer. Can you give me some answers for this, please? So just try your best. Don't worry about making mistakes. That's why I'm here, to help you correct. So what other schools have you attended? So Harmeet, this is where you definitely want to say, I've attended some other schools for getting ready for exams. These exam preparatory schools include, and then name a couple of them. Pavan, I have attended only one school during my childhood studies, and that is Vidya Nikatan School. All right, think about other schools like dance school, judo school, so something for martial arts, music school. It doesn't have to be something that you went to for years. It could just be a couple of months. English, okay, IELTS, right? I'm sure some of you attended some schools for that. So I've attended some other schools for only correspondence using the internet, Deep Kaur, and then explain what that is. For instance, microengineering or something like that, okay? I have attended some other schools for computer certification. Much of that I did online. Saptaparni Mandal. That was a good answer. A little bit of detail there. I have attended a school which gave me courses during summer vacation. Sure. Absolutely. Here's my answer. Well, aside from public school and university, I have, and then again, you can contract that, I've, okay, repeat after me, I've, so well, aside from public school and university, I've attended some ESL schools, including an online course for IELTS at Academic English Helps channel on YouTube. Why not put a little plug in there for you girls and guys watching, all right? And again, you can subscribe to us to catch these lessons 4 or 5 times a week. So repeat after me. Well, aside from public school and university, I've attended some ESL schools, including an online course for IELTS at Academic English Helps channel on YouTube. All right, so that would be a good answer. Again, you're going into specifics here. So naming something like YouTube, naming a specific channel, the name of the school, just makes your communication that much stronger, okay? Navneet, you saying, I prefer only one school for my primary and secondary studies, but after that I went to English spoken course. That's kind of off topic because I'm not asking you what you prefer. I'm asking you, have you attended other schools? If you're telling me what you prefer, that's answering a little bit of a different question. So be really careful with that, okay? All right. Schools do not have to be physically attended, Hadil. That was a good question as well. You could be learning in an online school, okay? A lot of students do learn online for certain certifications and topics these days, and that could easily be a virtual school, right? Virtual classroom, virtual school. Okay, let's jump back here. Now, which was your favorite? Why? So obviously here the inferred question is, which was your favorite school and why? Can somebody give me an example of that one? So an example answer for which was your favorite school and why? Okay, Farouk says, my favorite school was secondary school because I made a lot of friends and those are still with me, and my teacher helps me to build my career line. Okay, and those are still with me. Until then, Farouk, you're good. You need a little bit more clarity before the teacher. Also, one of my teachers from high school is helping me to this day in building my career. So careful not to add another chunk of information without clarity. Okay, I'm not sure when you say my teacher helps me, I can only infer that that's a teacher from high school, but you need to tell me that. Okay, I can't read that Cyrillic name, but I can read what you wrote. My favorite school was painting school because I had a lot of fun. Made as an incorrect word choice, you would be docked marks for that one, so make sure you're using correct words. Pavan says, one of the best schools I attended so far was the school I went to in the summer of 2010 because I learned how to swim for the first time. Sure. Now, best is okay, but favorite and best, Pavan, are not necessarily the same. So you want to say something like the school I liked most was a summer vacation program that I attended in summer of 2010 where I learned to swim for the first time. Okay, great. Yeah, absolutely. Nice, smooth, descriptive answer there with an adjective clause. Definitely highly recommend using adjective clauses in your part 1, part 2, and part 3. Adjective clauses along with those subordinating conjunctions are the way to make complex sentences, and that will really help your score. I'll read one more. Charmaine, my favorite was in university. My favorite was being a student in university because it was cheaper than other schools, and it helped me reach my dream to become a nurse. This is since my instructors were very knowledgeable. Not a bad answer, Charmaine, but you definitely need to pay attention to a couple of missing words and some grammar there. All right, repeat after me, and then we'll go to the next question. So the school I liked most was a summer vocation program that I attended in summer of 2010, where I learned to swim for the first time. Okay, it was a ton of fun. It's a nice natural expression there for you. It was a ton of fun. All right, let's go back to the next one. Do you enjoy school? Why or why not? Anybody? Do you enjoy school? Why or why not? Give that one a try. Okay, give it a shot. Write an answer. Again, don't worry about making mistakes. I'm here to correct you and help you out. So effort. It's a big part of it. Practice makes perfect. And again, at home, don't just be writing this on your computer because that's not speaking, but say it nice and loud. Say what I say, and especially when I correct you, try to repeat that. By the way, this lesson is being recorded and is available on the YouTube channel about 30 minutes, 40 minutes after we're done the stream. So for those of you who are writing these answers, and when I make a correction, go back, watch the lesson again, wait for your sentence to come up, and then repeat the correction that I say. Okay? Hadil says, yes, I like Yes, I used to like school a lot because not only I was a nerd and so into studying scientific subjects, but also I had a lot of great friends back then who are still in touch with me till now. Nice natural language there, Hadil. I can absolutely see, even by your comments, that your English is improving step by step through these weeks watching the classes, so good for you. All right. Aaron says, yes, I do, since it's been teaching me lots of interesting information, and then I lost the rest of it in the stream. Don't use the word things, Aaron, and this is also true for everybody else, okay? Don't use the word things in your speaking and writing. Things and stuff has zero value. They are all-encompassing nouns. That means they can be anything, okay? If you use the words things, it's not good for your score because my question, if I'm a professor, is what things? Okay, so don't use the word things. Avoid that. All right, Shiji says, yes, I enjoyed going to school because I was able to meet my friends there and have some quality time with them. Also, it helped me to learn new ideas daily. Okay, again, don't use things. Yeah, very quickly coming up now. That's great. I'll try to catch a couple more. Teenage Rada says, yes, I love to attend school owing to my Energizer Bunny attitude. Always keen on learning new information. Okay, a lot of you using that word things. Please don't use that. Sanim, well, I enjoy school mostly because I have a lot of friends and teachers and also some nice girls who I get to meet. Sure, Sanim, great. Good answer. All right, I'll put one up there, just choosing one of yours. I'll read that last one. Yes, I really enjoy my school because I'm able to build good relationships with my friends and teachers. Yes, with an exclamation mark. Sure, you can emphasize that. Yes, I really love going to school because I get to meet a lot of new people there, build valuable relationships, and learn useful information. For instance, I met my best friend Corey in my grade 9 class. Okay, again, girls and guys, don't forget these key examples, okay? We haven't seen much of this yet, but we need to, okay? So for the future questions, I really, really encourage you to do your best and put some specific examples in there. They make your communication so much more powerful, and your band score will definitely go up, okay? So examples, 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 examples. Practice that before your IELTS interview, okay? Question example. You should have a clear, specific example from your life for at least one of every 2, maybe 3 questions, no less, okay? You don't have to have an example for every single question like that, but definitely every second or third question have something like that, okay? All right, repeat after me. Yes, I really love going to school because I get to meet a lot of new people there, build valuable relationships, and learn useful information. For instance, I met my best friend Corey in my grade 9 class. Okay, let's jump back here. Go to the next question. What is your favorite subject? Obviously here you'd want to answer the question of why. So let's see some answers coming up for this one. Again, I'll try to catch and correct as many as I can. So here we go. What is your favorite subject? Sugat, I was more intrigued in pragmatic works rather than theoretical, and when I did an egg experiment in grade 7, I totally fell in love with physics. Okay, so even be more specific, in love with physics. And the egg experiment in grade 7 class is a good example to put in there. I loved it. All right, English is my favorite school subject. The reason I like it is because it's simple and it's an international language. I can communicate with people from different cultures. For instance, I traveled to France last year and I was amazed at how many people I could communicate with. Good. Okay, Chandra says, interesting enough, my favorite subject in school was English. At the moment, English is the future because I have learned a lot about the language, culture, and literature. My favorite book written in English is Twilight. I don't know, Chandra. I'm just making it up, but you need that specific example in there, okay? Manmohan Singh says, my favorite subject is economics because this subject, I learn a lot about the economy and can find solutions to trivial problems faced in every life. It's about you, not about us and we, okay? I have a different favorite subject. As you can see, other students have other favorite subjects. Careful not to switch the pronoun I for we and us, okay? Girls, guys, be very careful with you, we, us, okay? Especially in this part 1, the questions are usually about you. You don't want to start talking about me, so you don't want to say you because that's me, the examiner. I have a different life. And you don't want to say we or us because your questions or your answers are not always encompassing everyone else. It's just you, so stick to yourself. All right. Hongyan Nguyen says, one of my personal favorite subjects is math because it helps me not only to enhance intellectual ability, but also solve problems in my life. For instance, I did my taxes last year and it saved me about $500 US. That was a great correlative conjunction there, Hongyan. I liked it. I saw that not only but also. And guess what? If I'm your examiner and I hear that not only but also coming into your answer, your mark is going up. And I'm going to take that from you to show the other students how important that is. My favorite subject has always been math, not only because I have a good brain for numbers, but also arithmetic has helped me solve some tricky situations in life. For instance, using good math, I saved $500 on my taxes last year. Sure, okay. Obviously, if you don't do your own taxes, you can make up a different example. But the importance here is including that example and including that correlative conjunctions, not only but also. Yes, Chandra, I see you're calling out to me. Adrian, if I missed your comment, it's because I'm one human and I have a lot of students writing comments. I try to catch as many as possible. Don't give up. I'll probably catch one of your later answers, okay? I'll read one more. Rekha says, my favorite subject was English and still is. I am keen to learn different words, idioms, and proverbs. That's really interesting. For instance, last week I learned the expression, you have to break a few eggs to make an omelet. I thought that was not only very clever, but very useful, meaning that sometimes we have to do bad in order to create something good. Okay, awesome. Let's jump into the next question. I believe that is your last one for part 1. Are schools different in your country? How are they different? Now, this is probably asking you if the schools in your country are different from, for instance, Western countries like the US or Canada. If you live in the US or Canada, you probably say, well, the schools in the other part of the world. So China, Korea, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, wherever you might be, the schools are different than here. Okay, this is especially true if you are doing your IELTS exam abroad, all right? If you're not abroad, they might just skip that question and go right into part 2. Okay, try to answer it. Are schools different in your country? How are they different? All right. I'm not sure about that, Aditya. You're saying if you stay here for any longer, these people wipe English. That's not positive to say that. You should always take a positive approach to life. Because, Aditya, you can, I'm sure, notice use of English that you're not doing constantly, like correlative conjunctions. Also, you might be catching new vocabulary that some students are using as well. You might see mistakes that you're realizing are important to avoid, okay? So I don't know if I agree with you on that. Okay, yes, school is different from other countries because abroad there are so many facilities for students. Yeah, that's what I mean, Aditya. I was referring to the comments as well. All right. So, yes, school is different from other countries abroad. There are so many facilities for students. You want to give an example there for sure, Bolar. You don't want to say something like, for instance, in the U.S., every high school has a metalwork shop, a woodworking shop, ovens and stoves for home economics. But in my country, these usually are only found in colleges. Okay. Vietnam has different schools, like private schools and public schools. That's kind of off topic, Bella, because I'm asking if schools are different in your country. Okay. So are schools different in your country? Teenager Ada, if you're using simple English, not too much vocabulary, how much can you score? You can still score 8, 8.5, even 9 if you're using simple vocabulary effectively. Most English speakers only use about 500 words average a day, yet some of them, of course, can speak highly effectively with just those 500 words. Sunny says, yeah, schools are different from country to country. For instance, in the U.S., teachers are not allowed to give punishment in schools, whereas in my country, students get hit on the hand if they talk back to the teacher. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good example. The Panomic. In my country, the school system is really different from Western regions of the world. Students have to memorize all the lessons before class, and we have private school with the teachers following regular hours. Sure. Adil. Yes, schools are different in Saudi Arabia from other countries because they segregate both genders from each other. For example, I studied in a school with all girls all my life, as we're in the U.S., most of the schools are co-ed. Sure, those are some great examples. Let's use that one. So, one way in which schools are distinctly different from many other countries is that in Saudi Arabia, genders are separated into different schools. Of course, and this is of course because they can see that you're a girl, so of course I attended all girls schools my whole life. However, as far as I know, most schools in countries such as the US are co-ed. Okay? Yeah. That's a good answer. I just tweaked it a little bit with some conjunctions and some natural expression there and a couple of higher level vocab like distinctly. Okay, repeat after me. One way in which schools are distinctly different from many other countries is that in Saudi Arabia, genders are separated into different schools. Of course, I attended an all-girls school my whole life. However, as far as I know, most schools in countries such as the US are co-ed, and that's true. There are some private schools that are separated by gender in the US and Canada as well, but most schools will be co-ed, especially public schools. Okay, so then you have the next part coming up. So the examiner will say, okay, that is the end of part one. Now, students here sometimes like, okay, is the examiner going to ask me all of these questions? Quite possibly. It depends on your fluency and on your ability to answer smoothly and quickly. If you have nice natural English and you give these answers, you've practiced, you know what you're doing, you can answer all of these questions with these answers in about 4 minutes, let's say. And that definitely gives the examiner enough time for a part 2 and a part 3. The examiner should be asking you at least 4, if not 5 questions for this chunk of part 1. If they're only asking you 1 or 2 or 3 questions, it means you're probably talking too much and going off topic. All right? So for part 2, the examiner will say, all right, that is the end of part 1. Now for part 2, I'm going to give you a card with some questions on it. You have 1 minute to prepare. Here is a pencil and some paper to make notes. Please make notes. Use those notes. Okay, don't just make the notes. Use those notes. And then you will have 2 minutes to speak. The examiner will not tell you to use your notes that many times, all right? But I'm telling you, use your notes. Are you ready to begin? And then you say, sure, yes, I am. And then they'll say your 1 minute preparation time begins. Now you turn over the card and you see this question. Describe a television program you enjoy. You should say the name of the program, what kind of program it is, why you like it. You will have 1 to 2 minutes to talk about this topic. You will have 1 minute to prepare what you're going to say. Now, sometimes students forget this last question, so it can be a good idea to answer this question early and then go on to the other questions, all right? So, describe a television program that you enjoy. The first thing that you should say is the program. So let's get right into this. I'm not going to go into too much part 2 description and strategy, instead just doing a practice answer right now. So part 2, let's see. What kind of shows you girls and guys enjoy? So throw some out there for me. What are some shows that you enjoy? Reno, Got Talent. Yeah, like America's Got Talent. I've used that one in the past in a lesson, I think about a month ago or something, so let's use something different. Spider diagram, Hadil, can be very good. Yeah, a mind map is another way to say it. Mind maps can be excellent for part 2. Absolutely, especially if you practice using them, Hadil. That was a good question. If anybody's curious about that, maybe pick up a conversation with Hadil and figure out what he means by a spider map or a mind map. Fatima Jafar says, I like the Oprah show. Okay, sure, she's not on TV anymore, but you can still use that. Game of Thrones, all right, that's a great show. I love it myself, but I don't want to use it because it's a little bit too violent and aggressive, so I'll take something a little bit more people-friendly. Okay, I saw somebody say Animal Geography, sure, is a good one. Man vs. Wild a couple of times has come up, so let's use that one. Man vs. Wild nature shows would be a great answer for this one. So here we go. One of my favorite shows on television is called Man vs. Wild. Okay. What would be a good way to continue this? Okay, let's keep continuing this. Okay, so this is an event. Okay, a TV show would be an event. Events are what is it, when is it, who goes there, who sees it, and of course, because it's a television show, you're going to have to describe what it actually is, the characters, what plays out in it. Okay, even if you're not familiar with Man vs. Wild, you can imagine that this show is something to do with people out in the wilderness surviving. So it's a type of survival show. Getting through the trials and tribulations of nature. What would be a good way to continue this? Yeah, so answering that last question, right? Why you like it, okay? As I said, you might want to get that in there right away. The reason I am in love with this program is because it always teaches me useful survival skills for being out in the wilderness. Since I love the outdoors, I usually go camping at least 5 times a year. The information from this show could one day, could very well one day save my life. Okay? What should I do after this? Yeah, so Shuban Shu says the most fascinating aspect of this program is that it demonstrates how to tackle various obstacles in the wild, not wild obstacles. That could be a little bit awkward or misinterpreted. I watch it on Channel 1 each Friday at 5 p.m. with my family. Sure. At 5 p.m. with my family. Yeah, sure. Now, before that, I'd like to include a little bit more information. All right. Timeline of the show is okay, but I think that there's something here that I could say that will make my speaking and my score much better. Again, don't forget, this is what I'm trying to emphasize this class over and over and over again. Don't forget it. What should you include? You need to include this in your part 1, part 3, and in your part 2 as well. Aisha says your examples, exactly. So again, think about it, be creative. So one of my favorite shows on television is called Man vs. Wild. The reason I'm in love with this program is because it's always teaching me useful survival skills for being out in the wilderness. Since I love the outdoors, I usually go camping at least 5 times a year. The information from this show could very well one day save my life. So give me an example. Absolutely, you're getting it. I love it. Navneet, Mohammed, Baur, Garvinder. Excellent. You're giving me the right answer. Now give me the example. Give me the example. That is not an example, Renan. It teaches me a lot of skills. Yes, but what kind of skills? Give me a skill. Come on, you can make it up. I know all of you have your creative juices flowing and you have the power to give me. Thank you, Bella. That's exactly what I was thinking of. I think that's probably one that many of us would be thinking of. I learned to make fire with some rocks. Absolutely. For instance, I went on a trip to the mountains last summer with 2 of my friends, but we all forgot to bring lighters and matches. Fortunately, I was able to find some flint rock and make a great big fire to cook our meal because I learned it in one of the episodes. Okay, so now you realize that sometimes students get really nervous about not being able to talk for 2 minutes. So sometimes students are like, oh man, it's only 4 questions. How do I talk about 4 questions for 2 minutes? And then what happens sometimes with students is because they're trying so hard, they go way off topic and they're talking about everything and anything except the right topic and controlling idea. Well, one of the ways that you can increase your speaking time and your score is think about detailed questions to those 4 questions. So use the 4 questions as the main questions and then use sub-questions to create further information. And thinking of examples is a great way. Like, well, what did I actually learn from this show? What did I use? What was on the show? Okay, Hadil says, I went camping with my friends in the woods last week. He saw a grizzly, and because I've watched the show, I knew how to deal with such a situation. We acted like we were dead, and finally the big grizzly left us alone. That's probably true, Hadil, except in the real world, living in Canada, I can tell you that the grizzly will probably smack you around a little bit, throw you around, so just make sure you don't make a sound or start running when that happens, no matter how painful it is. You have to be tough. All right. Shuban Shu says one example that springs to mind is that someday I might have a one-on-one with an alligator. Then I would be able to dominate it by grabbing it from the tail and pulling it around, just like the main character of the show did. All right. Great. Yeah, so some good examples there, girls and guys. All of those are great. All right. Okay, so I watch it on channel 1 each Friday at 5 p.m. with my family. Let's see. Go back to the questions. Make sure you keep looking at the card. What is the name of the program? Did we answer that? Yes, we answered that. What kind of program is it? We haven't answered that. Clearly, this is a nature show, okay? A reality nature show. So let's answer it. Clearly, of course, because of the information I've given so far, this is a reality TV nature show. All right, what else can I put under after that? The channel's name is the Discovery Channel. Sure, could be, absolutely. All right, and I can include that. What else can I include? Yes, absolutely. Bear Grylls, the name of the main character. The host of the show is a man in his late 30s, early 40s. His name is Bear Grylls. And as some of you might know, there's actually a whole bunch of products that come from the show, the Bear Grylls products, knives and camping equipment of all sorts. We could talk about that if you know that, but if you don't, it's okay. The host of the show is a man in his late 30s, early 40s. His name is Bear Grylls. He has brilliant skills for survival in just about any situation. His knowledge and charismatic personality make the show very enjoyable to and addictive to watch. Sure. So throwing a little bit more in there is knowledge and charismatic personality make the show very enjoyable and addictive to watch. Saptaparni says it's Grylls with a Y. Is it? I don't know. I don't usually write his name, but obviously you don't have to worry about that in the speaking because you're not writing. So don't worry about it. By the way, in part 1 and 2, the name of the person you're spelling generally doesn't matter too much as long as it could be read. Okay, now we could give more information about him, but careful not to go off topic. So we don't want to spend too much time talking about Bear Grylls. We want to make sure that we're sticking to the topic of the show, which is a TV program. Therefore, I hope, okay, and now we're kind of wrapping this up. All right, so we're wrapping up our answer. Can somebody wrap up the answer so that we can show the examiner that we're done talking? Okay, so I know that we could probably keep talking and talking and talking, but the examiner will stop you after 2 minutes. And you kind of don't want to have a situation where they cut into the middle of your sentence, all right? So you definitely want to practice your timing at home, even if you have good English skills and you're good at doing these kinds of presentations. Practice that 2-minute benchmark and be able to use sentences, expressions that wrap up your speaking, okay? Okay, those don't really wrap it up yet. So saying therefore I hope one day I will be as skilled as him is okay, but you're not really wrapping it up. Kira, that's a little bit better. Therefore, I would advise others to watch this program, especially if they love the outdoors. So therefore, yeah, let's take that out and answer it that way. Therefore, I would advise others who love the outdoors to watch this program, and I hope it will continue to air for many more years to come. Okay, so there you go. That would be a good way to finish that up. That would definitely, if I'm your examiner, give me the indication that you've said as much as you want to say and you're done. Now, sometimes students say, well, what if I say all of this in 90 seconds, in 1.5 minutes? Is that a problem? Am I going to lose marks? No, not at all, okay? If you have clearly, completely answered all 4 of the questions, gone into some good details, used some conjunctions, and expressed yourself, then 90 seconds, hey, you can do it and still get a 9 on the IELTS. There isn't a strict rule that you have to be able to talk for the 2 minutes, otherwise we're going to dock you marks. The only way that you'll start losing marks is, of course, if you're not answering the questions or if you're missing the questions. So that's why it's so important to check the questions, check your notes, okay? Watching this TV program, I wouldn't say however, Hadil, just watching. Watching this TV program is a pleasure, and it allows me to spend quality time with my family, and I would definitely advise others to do the same. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, so girls and guys, let's just repeat after me here. Well, one of my favorite shows on television is called Man vs. Wild. The reason I'm in love with this program is because it always teaches me useful survival skills for being out in the wilderness. Since I love the outdoors, I usually go camping at least 5 times a year. The information from this show could very well one day save my life. For example, I went on a trip to the Andes Mountains last summer with 2 of my friends, Bill and Joe. And interestingly enough, between the 3 of us, we all forgot to bring lighters and matches. Of course, being out in the wild, this is a big problem. Fire is man's best friend. Fortunately, I was able to find some flint rock and strike them together, making a great big fire to keep us warm and to cook our meals. This is something that I learned from one of the episodes that I watched a couple of weeks back. This show I watch on Channel 1, the Discovery Channel, every Friday at 5 p.m. with my family, my wife and 2 kids. They also like the show. They've learned a lot of useful information as well that they too use when they're camping with me. Clearly, this is a type of reality TV nature show. So there are a lot of beautiful vistas and places that I get to see. The host is often traveling to different regions of the world, such as the Amazon and the Congo. The host of the show is a man in his late 30s, early 40s. His name is Bear Grylls. He has become quite famous. He has brilliant skills for survival in just about any situation. His knowledge and charismatic personality make the show very enjoyable and almost addictive to watch. Therefore, I would advise others who love the outdoors to watch this program, and I hope it will continue to air for many more years to come. Okay, so that's it. That's roughly 2 minutes. Again, you probably noticed that I threw in some further details, some further expressions as I went along. That's what you want to practice at home. So when you write down responses at home for part 2, when you go through them, see where you can expand, give further detail, okay? Again, this lesson is being recorded, so about 30 minutes after we're done, you can go back, listen to this part of it again, and then repeat again and again just so you see how I did that, all right? Awesome. Do that. You got an 8.59, certainly. And then the examiner will say, that is the end of part 2. Your time is up. Can I have the card back, please? And then you give them back the card. You put the note, paper, and the pencil to the side. Stay calm. Stay confident. Part 3 is still to come. You got to do a good job there, all right? So, part 3. The examiner will say, now we will continue with part 3. And then you say, that sounds good. And then the examiner will say something like, what makes a good television show? All right, girls and guys. So please try to answer this question for me. What makes a good television show? And sometimes you'll have shorter questions. Sometimes the questions will be quite a bit longer for part 3. Okay, work with the populations is a very short answer, Sardor. You'd have to give me a little bit more than that. Use the question. Well, I think a good show allows people to have a lot of fun is a more clear way to do that. Fatima, nice. You're buying some time. Well, that's an interesting question. Modern equipment and interesting material. Indira, you're going to have to tell me what you mean by modern equipment because I'm not sure what that means. That could mean special effects. That could mean the type of camera equipment that's used so that the quality is better. The actors, yeah, the quality of acting, the storyline. So might not be a question that you hear every day, so you might want to buy some time for your answer. If you don't know the answer right away, please buy time. Use a natural filler. Okay? Natural fillers are good to use if you don't know the answer right away. Instead of saying something dumb and off topic, buy yourself some time. That's an interesting question. Just a moment. And then you take a moment. All right. I suppose the storyline and the quality of the actors or the skills of the actors are two of the key components to creating a good show. Okay, and then here you want to include an example. And it's good if you can tie in your part 2 to the example. For instance, Man versus Wild is enjoyable because Bear Grylls is a talented host, and the story for each episode is very interesting. Okay, so something like that, all right, would be a good answer. Tying in your part 2 to your part 3 is usually possible because part 3 somehow is related to part 2. The examiner will even say that. The examiner will say, I'm going to ask you some questions on a related topic. That should right away remind you that, oh yeah, okay, Adrian told me that I can use information, especially if I gave a good answer for part 2, to refer to that in part 3, okay? So, repeat after me. That's an interesting question. Just a moment. All right. I suppose the storyline and the skills of the actors are two of the key components to creating a good show. For instance, Man vs. Wild is enjoyable because Bear Grylls is a talented host, and the story for each episode is very interesting. Okay? All right. Let's get to that next question. I'm going to skip this one, the how much television you watch. I think most of you can answer that one well. Let's jump to this one here. What impact does the internet have on television programs? So let's get to a little bit more of a technical question. What impact does the internet have on television programs? And your examiner might do this as well. They might not ask you every question. They might jump around, especially depending on the time constraint at this point in the interview. So please answer this one for me. What impact does the internet have on television programs? Saptaparni, I read your answer. That's a good answer. It's a very good answer. Very nice use of English there. Okay, try to answer this one, this question. What impact does the internet have on television programs? Fatima says, it has a tremendous impact. That's a good way to start it off. And then tell me what impact. Some students have asked me, is it a good way to say, well, it has several impacts? No, don't set yourself up for failure. Don't say it has many or several. Instead, say it has a great impact, and then say the first one, and then say also furthermore if you have more to add. But if you say there are many impacts and then you can only remember one or think of one, it starts to sound weird. So don't say many or several at the beginning of your answer. Instead, keep adding to it after you give each one, okay? And 2 answers is not many either, by the way. So, after online streaming provided some companies such as Netflix, many people started streaming shows online rather than watching them on television. That's a good answer, Reno. Just watch your grammar and your word use there. Kira has a good answer too. Internet helps some TV programs to be more popular and increases viewers worldwide because it's a huge platform for advertising. Yeah. Well, definitely the internet has had, okay, notice the present perfect, a massive impact on TV viewing. One reason is that it gives a huge platform for popular shows to get additional advertising and even more viewership. As well, it has changed the medium of watching programs. There are some sites, such as Netflix, which allow viewers to stream their favorite shows directly online rather than having to pay for cable TV. Don't talk like that. Have a little bit better intonation. Okay, so that's my answer there. All right, nice long answer, staying on topic, using some conjunctions. I gave 2 reasons here. If you can't think of 2 reasons, don't panic. Don't force it. Just stay with one, okay? Allowing you to watch programs in different languages, absolutely. More subtitle options. So repeat after me. Well, definitely the internet has had a massive impact on TV viewing. One reason is that it gives a huge platform for popular shows to get additional advertising and even more viewership. As well, it's changed the medium of watching programs. There are some sites, such as Netflix, which allow viewers to stream their favorite shows directly online rather than having to pay for cable TV. Okay, now there are some further questions here. I am going to play some audio from our website for this speaking. I want you to listen and repeat. This is a non-native speaker giving a high-level answer. This is a mock or a practice example for you. It's not live, okay? Sometimes students say, oh, the speaking interview's online, like on our channel. It's not live. It's not a real IELTS exam. It's almost the same, or very, very similar. You probably will never see an actual true IELTS exam on the internet simply because recording equipment is not allowed into an official IELTS exam. And the other reason, of course, is it would just not be fair to a real student to have someone sit there with a camera in their face while they're already so nervous to try to get a good score on the test because they're going to school or immigration. So you really only do see mock IELTS speaking interviews online, but that's absolutely okay. Just make sure you're watching good ones, all right? Here is a mock IELTS response from our website. I'll log into our academic, which is the blue background. And then this is coming from our test 2. So in your CDs, you will find it in your CD track number CD2, track number 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so let's listen to part 1, part 2, part 3. Again, pay attention to how this student is answering these questions. This would probably get about an 8 for the performance on the IELTS. Okay, so just listen and repeat. And then you can try the remaining questions at home for homework that we didn't do in part 3. Okay, here we go.
Hello there. Have a seat.
Thank you.
What is your name?
My name is Maria Angelique.
Okay, Maria. We're going to start the IELTS speaking section. I will record this speaking part of the test for marking purposes. To begin, I'm going to ask you a few questions on a general topic. Are you ready to proceed?
Yes, I am.
Okay, let's talk about school. Where do you go to school?
I just finished high school in my hometown of Rouen in France. Right now, I am traveling and preparing for university.
What other schools have you attended?
Well, I moved from Paris when I was 15, so I had high school there. Additionally, I have attended a nursery school and elementary school in Paris. I have gone to 4 schools in total.
Which was your favorite? Why?
That's a tough question. I enjoyed all of the schools I went to. If I had to pick one, I would choose the elementary school in Paris. I met some of my best friends there, and the school had some of my favorite teachers.
Do you enjoy school? Why or why not?
Yes, I do enjoy school. I like seeing my friends and learning new things. I look forward to weekends though.
What is your favorite subject?
My favorite subject is physics. I like learning about how the world works.
Are schools different in your country? How are they different?
The schools in France are very similar to those here. The one big difference is that children in France go to school for 1 year less.
That is the end of part 1.
Okay, so that's part 1. Now listen to part 2.
For part 2, I will ask you about a specific topic. You will have 1 to 2 minutes to talk about this topic. You will have 1 minute to prepare what you are going to say. You can make notes if you wish. Now we will begin. Here's a card with the questions.
But one program I make sure to watch every week is a show called Night Watch. It is a news show which talks about important issues going on in France. For example, a recent episode warned us about the dangers of skin cancer. Especially in the south of France, the number of cases of the condition is exploding. Shows like Night Watch are valuable because they raise awareness for issues like this. The show is also very enjoyable because it is so balanced. It presents both sides of the issue without bias. Another recent episode covered a big court case in Paris. While the newspaper had clearly already decided if the defendant was guilty or innocent, Night Watch presented both sides of the story while leaving the verdict to the jury and the court. Night Watch has also won many television awards in France, as well as some international awards. Additionally, the show comes on each Sunday night at 9 p.m. and it makes for a perfect way to end my weekend. I learn a lot from the show and I feel better knowing that I'm up to date on the local and world issues going into the coming week. That's why I enjoy this program.
Okay, that is the end of part 2. Okay, that is the end of part 2. I will now ask you some specific questions related to the topic of part 2. We will now begin part 3. What makes a good television show?
I think a good television program should be interesting, exciting, and should keep the viewers' interest. Nobody wants to watch a boring show. A good show should also keep the viewer guessing.
How much television do you watch?
I don't watch very much television, but I will watch a show once in a while. I watch perhaps 10 hours a week. That is far less than a lot of people I know, including my friends.
What television shows are popular in your country?
There are a lot of game shows in my country where regular people come on TV and try to win prizes. My mother was on a game show and she won a trip to Australia. They are definitely very popular.
What impact has the internet had on television programs?
Just to be clear, you are asking me how the internet has influenced television?
Yes, exactly.
Well, I believe the internet has had two different influences on television programs. In one sense, it gives television programs more viewers because the internet makes it easy to watch shows whenever a viewer wants to. However, in another sense, fewer people watch the shows on television, which reduces advertising revenue for the television companies.
What do you think the future of television is?
That is a tough question. I think the future of television is tied to the technology of the television itself. If televisions continue to get better and more desirable, then people will want to watch programs on their television. However, if television technology stays the same, people may turn more and more to computers and the internet for their television program needs.
Great, that is the end of part 3, and that is the end of the IELTS exam. Thank you very much for coming. Have a great day.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, so there you have a sample response. And I saw some of your questions there that you were asking me. Let me just jump back to our darker background here so you can see me. So I saw a couple of you asking, it's difficult for you to understand her. She's using a different accent. Yeah, that's true. So she's got a European accent, of course. That doesn't matter, girls and guys. So if I'm the examiner, I've heard accents from India, from China, Korea, Brazil, all over the world, Mexico, Europe. I can understand a lot of different accents of English. So as long as I can understand you, as long as I understand what you're saying, and I can definitely understand what she's saying, you're okay. The only problem is if your accent is so thick and so difficult, and your pronunciation is so tricky to understand that I can't really figure out what you're trying to tell me, that's when your score starts to go down. As long as I understand your pronunciation, even if you have a thick accent, you can still get a very good score. Okay. Yes, I've heard even people from Uzbekistan, Sardor. I've heard people from a variety of Slavic nations. My father has a Ukrainian background. So the accent, again, Saptaparni, does not affect your score beyond if I can't understand what you're saying. And that's fairly rare. Too many students worry too much about the accent. You shouldn't. You should worry more about answering the questions clearly, completely, with good details and not going off topic. Okay? All right, girls and guys, so that's the class for today. No class tomorrow. Usually we have a class Sunday, but no class tomorrow. The next class will be Wednesday next week at the same time, 16:30 Central European Time. That's 4:30 in the afternoon, Budapest time. Make sure that if you want access to all of our great IELTS materials, videos, interactive course, 6 full practice exams, audio for all of the speaking sections as well as the listening reading sections. Definitely the best bang for buck if you're wanting to spend a couple dollars to learn IELTS. Join us at aehelp.com for academic IELTS, gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. If you had a little bit of a tough time during the speaking session, don't worry. This video will be free and live on the YouTube channel in about 30 minutes after we're done here. Make sure to watch it again and repeat words that you didn't get or sentences that were too quick. You're very welcome, everybody. You're welcome, Amar. Aaron, your comment is nice. Thank you for that compliment. You're very welcome as well. Vegan, you're very welcome. I hope you guys got some good, useful information from the lesson today. I look forward to helping you out more in the weeks to come. We will be continuing with some reading on Wednesday, okay? That will wrap up our test 2, and then we will move into test 3, which is the third and final test of book 1. All right, girls and guys, thanks for participating, doing your best. I do appreciate all of you who wrote answers and did what you could. That was fantastic. Makes it that much more interesting and exciting for everyone. So thanks for that. Much love for now. Bye-bye. Enjoy the rest of your day. If it's late where you're at, sweet dreams, and I'll see you next week.